Not everybody knows what that is, but it's really just someone that, kind of spends time noticing nature. So, kind of the classic example that I think of an early famous naturalist was John Muir.
Mhm.
And really, he actually, the amazing thing is he didn't have a formal background. He didn't have formal training in geology or botany or ecology. What he did is he just spent time out in nature making observations.
Welcome to another episode of Animals, Nature, and You. This particular episode is really fun for me because, well, not only is the person I'm interviewing really dynamic, but also her story, how she got into this, answers a question I often get from people when the question is posed to me: how can I help? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a zoologist. What can I do for conservation or for the environment? But before we get into that, before we get into the introduction and into the conversation, I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who has been supporting this podcast. This has only been out for a week. We're basically a week old. Well, a week and a couple days, I guess, because new episodes are coming out on Thursdays. We officially launched on a Tuesday, but nonetheless, the response has been wonderful, to say the least, more than I expected. I'm doing this podcast because I believe these stories are important. I believe there's a need for these stories and the exploration of this curiosity towards the connections we have with animals and nature. And you know that. You understand that you're already a listener. So I'm doing this as a project of passion and the need to share these stories. But the response and the support I've gotten in this first week has been a lot more than I expected. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you listeners, those of you watching on YouTube, those who are taking the time to send messages to me on social media, or even through my website. Honestly, it's been a lot. It's been a much busier week than I anticipated, but busy in a good way, busy in a wonderful way, in a way that I didn't anticipate because I didn't realize that this podcast is clearly something that other people want as well. So with that said, I want to tease this out a little more with this episode, then we'll go into the introduction. The question I get often and have gotten often over the course of my career, as someone who goes into the public spaces or invites public into animal spaces or in nature, and people get excited about wildlife. People get excited about animals. They get excited about conservation, especially kids. But as a kid, or even as an adult who's already on a career path doing something completely different, it often feels like it's not something you can participate in other than maybe donating money. There's nothing you can do. And the sense of, I don't want to say helplessness, but perhaps lack of ability to follow that passion or to do something more other than just care and share on social media about what's going on with these animals or these ecological systems. The answer has always been, do what you can with what you have where you are. Whether it's organizing a trash and litter pickup in your park or creek bed or riverside or beach, lakeside, in the forest, wherever it might be, organizing a recycling program at your school or place of business. Anything and everything helps. Every little bit helps. But you can also get curious and educate yourself further and volunteer and perhaps share your knowledge as well. And that's what's exciting about my guest today. She's taken the concept of this is what I do for a living, but then here's what I'm curious and passionate about in a whole new direction, in a whole new way. And it's a great story about how this evolved for her and now what she's doing. So with that, let me do a little introduction to Gabrielle Katanic. She is a California-based naturalist and content creator sharing stories about ecology and the natural world. She grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, where spending time outdoors is what shaped her curiosity for wildlife and ecology. Later in life, she moved to the suburbs and felt that connection fade, which then eventually led her to the California Naturalist program. That experience motivated her to go back to school, where she earned her Bachelor's of Science degree in Natural Resources from Oregon State University. These days, she volunteers as a naturalist guide, doing interpretive hikes. But get this is how I found her, actually. She also creates very educational nature content through her Talk Nerdy to Me California social media platforms. It's all one word, Talk Nerdy to Me California. She really, it's the way she explains things, she really encourages people to slow down, notice more things, get curious, and of course, reconnect with the wonders of the universe, which, hello, Animals, Nature, News, all about reconnecting, of course. So I had to invite her on here. Gabrielle lives in Sacramento with her husband, and although she does all of this naturalist work and ecology work and content creation, she does have a day job. She works on an organic rice farm where agriculture and ecology meet every day. So without any further ado, let me just simply say, Gabrielle, thank you so very much for joining me and taking time to talk with us here on Animals, Nature, and You.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, yeah, and for those who've been following along in my journey, they might have caught our earlier, what was, I guess, the end of last year, we did an Instagram live together, and the way I came across your content was on Instagram. One of the beautiful things of the algorithm, when it does work right, the work you do online, what I saw, the videos, was so exciting and inspiring, excuse me, because my whole attitude is we have a connection to nature that our modern world tends to purposefully or unpurposefully drive us away from. We have so many things to do that we sometimes don't take the opportunity to appreciate what is our own wildlife, what is our own nature. And there you are in your area. You're in Northern California, the Sacramento area. You're out there in your own ecosystems, not only educating about it, but it's this infectious excitement. And I want to start this interview off asking you, how did you get to that point? Have you always been into biology and the natural ecology of your space, or was it something you kind of explored by accident or fell into, or how'd that work?
Yeah, well, I like to say that I was kind of maybe a nature enthusiast turned nature educator, and then more recently turned nature influencer. And
Nice.
I tell people, I say, I wasn't always this nerdy. And people don't believe me, but I go, no, really. This is a learned skill. You too can do this. But really, so I grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, in Santa Cruz, California, and I grew up as kind of a feral child, playing with banana slugs and building tree forts down by the river and hanging out in the redwood forests. And that was just kind of always part of my childhood. And then in my early 20s or so, I moved to a very suburban neighborhood that was surrounded by a lot of agriculture. It had a lot of suburbs, a lot of strip malls, and really very limited access. A very limited kind of culture and community that focused on nature. And I really missed it. I'd have to kind of drive a long distance to do any hiking or anything, and I kind of missed that connection. And then I heard, I don't know, through the grapevine about this program called the California Naturalist program. And that is a program, they have it here in California. I've also heard that they have it in some other states as well. And it's put on by I think our UC Extension Service. And it's mine was like maybe a 12-week program that is designed to be entry level. You don't have to have any past experience or familiarity with the topics. And it's just focused on California ecology and just kind of helping people learn more about nature.
And just real quick, want to jump in. This is something that you came across already as an adult working a different career, or this is something you came across when you were in college? What was?
Oh yeah, no, I was working. I have a background in accounting, so I was kind of a business manager for a farming department. But this was just something that came across through. I think I found it on social media actually, and it was just a local nonprofit was going to be hosting this, so it had nothing to do with anything I was doing for work or anything like that. I just was like, oh, I don't know, maybe that sounds fun. I think I was a little bored and just looking for something different. And that's how this program is usually offered. It's different nonprofits in different areas will host this program, and then you can kind of all have their own take on it. But it generally, is covering similar topics. So I'm really, I did this program, and it just opened up this kind of whole new world. Teaching, it just taught us, kind of things about California and about our ecology. But the other thing that it was really good at is it kind of taught us how to be naturalists. And, some people don't really know what that means. I like to also refer to as being a nature nerd.
There you go.
But, being a naturalist is something that anyone can do. You don't actually really need special skills. You don't need special tools. You don't even really need a formal education. Really, mostly what it's about is about going into nature and training your attention, kind of changing how you're paying attention to the world around you. And through this program, I developed such a passion, and I realized what an interesting state we live in and how many cool things were happening around us in nature all of the time. And it really kind of spurred this interest. I ended up going from this program. I loved it so much. I started taking classes at a local community college, taking natural history classes, and then I ended up transferring, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I ended up transferring and got my bachelor's degree in natural resources. Kind of did this, had an accounting degree, and I'm like, no, like this is. I'm gonna go back to school as an adult for something I'm excited and passionate about. And through that, after getting my degree in natural resources, I started volunteering with some local nonprofits, leading guided nature hikes. So there's this area, it's called the Sutter Buttes, and it's this kind of little mountain range in the northern Sacramento Valley. And I started leading guided hikes there. And that is really when the education component, again, I don't have a teaching background. I didn't really know that was something I wanted to do, but it was so fun. Just had such a wonderful time helping other people kind of build those same connections to nature that I had recently discovered. And then kind of through that, I'm like, oh, I love this so much, but it's limited to however many people can come on these hikes, which, maybe 12, 15 people at a time. And that is when I decided to kind of start my Talk Nerdy to Me profile on Instagram as just an opportunity. I mean, social media, love it or hate it, maybe a little bit of both.
Right. No, absolutely.
But it is a really powerful tool.
It is.
To reach people. And I'm like, okay, if I can both help people, kind of build this stronger connection to nature and use this powerful tool for good, I just found that to be like a really incredible opportunity. And it's been through this journey, I've really just made such a wonderful community of people that are excited about nature already, or maybe maybe they're a little nature curious and just kind of getting into it. And it's been a really a wonderful journey, and also really helpful for me because it gives me kind of an outlet for all of the fun nature facts that I have bouncing around in my brain 24/7. And my family, I had 2 teenage kids kind of when I started this. They're a little older now, but yeah, they're like, yeah, Mom, you told us all about lichen symbionts or whatever my current nerdy thing is, about 100 times. Can you tell somebody else who cares? So it's been just a really fun journey. It's kind of how I got to here.
Yeah, and so and this year in 2026, you have launched a whole new set of educational materials, and I want to get into that very soon. But first, I want to kind of break apart a little bit your experience thus far, in that I know in my world of wildlife education and environmental education, I've come across plenty of people who said, oh, I wish I would have known this was an opportunity to do this as a job when I was growing up. And they are doing the classic 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. Taking care of their family, it's something they're good at, accounting and selling insurance, whatever it might be. But they also recognize in themselves this curiosity or appreciation of animals or wildlife and nature. For you, as you were accidentally on purpose stumbling through this process, I want to ask if you can recall, for you personally, what was it like to start realizing that every little nugget you learned led to a new bit of curiosity that the way you describe it, it's like you kind of fell down this trail and then started running instead of falling. What was that like in the sense of sort of realizing you had this passion in you, or that nerdiness, as you call it?
Yeah, that's probably really what I love the most about this process. I say I'm, going down a new rabbit hole, or the curiosity vortex is kind of the other way that I refer to it. And it was just something that once you kind of get this background understanding, and with ecology and with the environment, like everything fits together, and there's all of
Yeah.
these different kind of species interactions and interactions, with the climate or your elevation or aspect. There's all of these different things that kind of fit together. And once you start noticing that and realizing, and making connections between those different kind of seemingly separate components, it's like this light bulb moment that, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I learned about that, but now I understand how it fits with this, and then this other thing. And I would start with like, oh, what, I'd notice something in nature, and I'd have a question about it and be like, oh, I wonder why that is the way it is, why you only see these trees going here but not here, why you see these species kind of together all the time. I wonder what's. And so I'd start doing a little research, or like read some articles, or watch some YouTube, and then I'd be like, well, now, okay, I answered that question, but now I have even more questions and even more questions. And then I'm okay, I gotta read a whole book on that. Then I'm gonna go, and go down all of these kind of individual rabbit holes. But I think that, like, curiosity is contagious, and it can kind of snowball and just send you in these different directions. And actually kind of what I like, so like my 9 to 5 is still, I'm a business manager. My 9 to 5 is working on spreadsheets and stuff, but it kind of affords me, the time on my weekends and my evenings to really kind of dive into some of my passion projects and learn more and go out and explore in nature, just able to sit at home and read a good book. And the other thing I always say is, like, I've also realized that I will be a forever student in
Right, right.
some capacity. I finished finished my community college, and I finished my bachelor's degree, and then I immediately was like, I don't know, I always kind of wanted to take field botany. Like, maybe I'll do that too. And or I found that, like, my local community college has evening classes. They have weekend classes. I did like a geology field trip, multi-day trip to like Yosemite. And I didn't even know much about geology, but just going out there and kind of, learning, I really found that I really love learning, and that's not something that even as adults and later in life, like, you don't have to stop. You can keep kind of leaning into those things that you get excited about, whether it's nature or kind of whatever your passion is. I think
Yeah.
it enhances your life to be able to do that.
Yeah, you were talking about the curiosity, and that is definitely something it's funny. It's always been with me since I can remember. I've always wanted to learn about animals, and that's led me to this process of, even today, it's like I see a new scientific article about particular species or taxonomy or whatever. I'm like, oh, I want to find out more about that. I'm in my 50s, for crying out loud, but I still can't get enough of it. So I appreciate and recognize in you that curiosity that just naturally seems to spawn out from our existence. And I appreciate the fact that the way you described your experience. But I want to then ask you now, on the other side, you have done all this education. You're now doing guided tours and field hikes and things like that. You are now, in some capacity, the educator, the teacher, when you're out there, and you do a lot online. You've got these new courses you're doing, but also in person. So do you see then when you're out there guiding a group of people, what is it that you see in people as they're reconnecting to nature through you?
That is really, and that was a huge piece of kind of what propelled me down this pathway, was that exact moment where you kind of see the light bulb go off for someone else, for someone. And a lot of people just come on these hikes because they're hikers, and they just want to be active, and they like the scenery, but they aren't necessarily there for the educational component. And I always, when I start my hikes, I go, just so you know, you signed up for an interpretive hike. That means we're going to be stopping and talking a lot. And I'll see people kind of, maybe getting a little antsy. Okay, we're stopping again. Like, what now? And those are really the people that I kind of make a special point to getting them engaged. Because honestly, like I was that way too. I would hike all the time, but I was just hiking to get to the destination or get to the viewpoint. And it wasn't until I slowed down and started noticing more what was going around me that I realized, first of all, how much I'd missed by kind of rushing through things, but like also just how much was happening around me that I just wasn't even paying attention to. So I really like encouraging people to slow down and asking lots of questions and kind of leading the conversation and helping them make connections. And I have one good example of this, something that it's my favorite. I love this moment. So you're familiar with a hand lens? Probably
Yes.
not everyone, not
But
everyone
please,
is.
yeah, for
But
those listening, please explain.
so I will explain. So a hand lens is kind of like a tiny magnifying glass. So, and it's really small, but the way that it's different from a magnifying glass is instead of holding it out at a distance and seeing something a little bit bigger, what you have to do is you have to kind of hold it right up to your eye. So I'll find, whoever that hiker is with me that seems a little bored, and I go, we're going to be talking about moss, which most people are like, oh, great, moss, cool. I'm like, no, you don't understand. And also I'll give them a hand lens, this little tiny magnifying glass. And how it works is you have to put it up to your eye, and then you have to hold moss in your hand or hold whatever you want to look at, and you have to bring it in closer and closer and closer. And there's always this moment where they're going, yeah, okay. Oh, wow. And it's like right when it comes into focus, they'll just be like, wow, like there's little critters crawling around in here. And like, what are these weird flowers? There's a whole little universe right here. And I go, yeah. Aren't you glad you slowed down and like and just kind of took a moment to look a little closer, and just seeing this realization that it kind of happens with them, and knowing from personal experience that they will never look at a mossy boulder just as like, oh, there's a fuzzy rock ever again. Like you can't. You will walk by this mossy boulder and like try to stop your friends and be like, hold on, you guys, come here. We got to look at this real quick. I'm going to show you something cool. Like that is just like, and seeing like, oh yeah, just witnessing other people like all of a sudden have that different way that they're looking at the world and making that connection and realizing that there's so much more going on there than we normally see when we're just walking by. Like, oh, it's so satisfying. I love it so much.
For those that are not able to see the video, just the excitement and animation coming from her right now as she describes this is what I live for. I mean, I can so relate to it because, it's those moments where you can connect people to what you're excited and passionate about. When other people, you see that aha moment in other people. It's so wonderful.
It's so good.
You've teased it well. What is a fun, interesting fact, mind-blowing fact about moss, because I will admit I do not know a lot about moss. I appreciate ecosystems. I appreciate how everything's interconnected. I understand there's stuff going on sometimes within an ecosystem. There's another ecosystem. So give me something about moss, and for our listeners, that is one cool fun fact that will be mind blowing.
Okay. Oh, what is that thing called? Okay. Well, I know kind of a common name I love for this. So first of all, moss is a bryophyte. And bryophytes are a certain category of plants that include mosses, liverworts, which lots of people have never heard of, and hornworts. And these are they are plants, but they're non-vascular plants. So that means that they don't have any veins running through them. They don't even have roots. They might have something that looks like roots, but it's not really. That's just to like secure them down onto whatever their surface is. And they are some of they're like prehistoric plants. They are ancient plants. They were some of the first plants to develop, however many millions of years ago. And you can find them on every single continent, pretty much everywhere, I think, but Antarctica, which I love about them, because this is like, we think of like big, majestic oaks and all these big charismatic plants, but like they have very specific places where they can grow, and like moss can grow everywhere. It's such a good like adaptation strategy to like, doesn't even need any roots, doesn't even need any veins. They also have a crazy, like their reproductive cycle is like this multi-step process that is more than I'll get into here, but is if you really want to get nerdy, like that whole process is very complex and very interesting. But what I think is the most interesting is you can take a little clump of moss, and like I did this, a few days ago, actually, with my microscope, and it just looks like some little leafy material. And if you look at it either with a hand lens or with a microscope, there is an entire little ecosystem happening within there. You can see water bears, which are like this weird little, I don't know, it looks like a big chunky roly pig thing,
right?
That
yeah,
will actually
famous
like
for living in any environment, anywhere, even
yes,
in space. Right?
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
You can. My friend told me this wonderful story that I just love so much. She actually got some moss that was growing on her front doormat. That was like, it's kind of a moist area, and she found like this little bit of moss that was growing on her doormat, and she decided to look at that under her microscope, and she found water bears.
Nice. That's so cool.
Swimming around there. And I was like, if you can, you can find, this entire ecosystem that is just living on a little leafy thing growing in your doormat, extrapolating that out and like thinking about that on a larger scale of everything else that is happening around us all of the time that we, can't even fathom. Like, I love that. I like that, you can have something so small that has so much going on.
Yeah. The whole ecosystem right there in the moss. Yeah. That's what's so fun about this is you can, it almost feels like in my studies of biology and zoology, it just feels like you can never not learn. You can never not keep learning. There's no way to learn it all, because it's moss on a rock. Okay, so that's part of the ecosystem where that rock is. But then in the moss, there's an ecosystem, and then probably if you get deeper into it, there's another sub ecosystem to that. I mean, and how everything's connected and everything else. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you though, real quick, what would you recommend? Like, what would be the first thing? Let's say someone's listening to this and like you, they've got the 9 to 5 that is not involved with the ecology or anything that you had mentioned for yourself. You have these hikes you teach as you hike, do interpretive hiking. If I'm somebody listening to this going, I want to do one of those, how would someone go about finding something in their local area? Obviously, here in California, we're blessed. We have so many great state parks and national parks and protected green spaces. There's other states where that may not be quite as much the case, but I do know that us nerds, we're everywhere. We're doing something, whether it's a trash pickup, at the river or the lake or something in the park or bird watching. What would you recommend be the first step? Someone's like, I think I want to check this stuff out. How would you recommend they go about finding something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's always my problem is I'm like, oh, I want to, there are so many fun things happening, and how could I possibly fit them all into my schedule? And one thing that I really recommend, like you know, there are different groups depending on what flavor of nerd you are. There are plant groups, there are birding groups, there are mycology, kind of mushroom groups. I'm part of the Lichen Society.
Nice.
Extra level nerdy. And then there's also just kind of nature hikes that are just more focused on kind of going out and spending time in nature. And there are so many different organizations. And really for me, I find it really helpful to like try a little bit of all of them. Cause really when I was actually first going back to school, I was leaning towards wildlife. I was leaning towards wildlife biology. And then I took a botany class, kind of like, oh, it would happen to be being offered. And I went, oh, I'm a plant person. I didn't know. I love wildlife, but it was like plants that really sucked me in. And then I took a geology class, just a geology field course. I'm like, oh, maybe that's interesting. And I found I had a real passion for that. So I do recommend that, like, people, maybe you don't think you're going to be into birding, but like try a little birding. Maybe you'll like it. But again, it kind of one of the things we talked about is that social media is a wonderful place to find your fellow nerds. And so I've seen tons of events, tons of groups, tons of organizations. You can Google birding groups, you can Google plant groups, kind of finding a lot of the time there's clubs or organizations, that will be kind of hosting different events. Check your community college too, for sure. Like I said, my community college offered a ton of evening classes, weekend workshops, kind of spring break trips. A big one, and I know that they have them in lots of states. I'm a member of our local chapter of the Native Plant Society. So we have the California Native Plant Society, but lots of different states have those. And usually there's kind of a statewide organization and then local chapters. So you could actually kind of interact with people more directly. We also have Wildlife Society. So again, I think there's a Wildlife Society that covers all of the U.S. And then there's, my
That's
phone.
excellent advice from
He's giving me some pro tips.
the phone's always listening.
Oh my goodness. Okay. But yeah, so searching for local community groups, checking your community college. Our library has some really good resources.
Yeah, libraries are a great resource for clubs and groups,
But definitely, and then, then there's lots of organizations. So, I lead guided interpretive hikes through like Middle Mountain Foundation, so different nonprofits. There's a lot of different nature-focused nonprofits in our area that kind of have those types of events. But I also say, like, you can I definitely encourage joining those events, but you also can, a lot of these things you can do on your own. You can, go out on a hike or even go just to your neighborhood park. And you can, what I always, tell people to start with is just focus on noticing. So, things like, noticing patterns that you see around you, kind of making observations, noticing. Another helpful thing is to think, when you're like looking at nature, a good question that can be helpful is think, what does this remind me of? And that can be, so if you see something in nature, it doesn't necessarily have to be, what does this remind me of something else that's in nature? You can say, what does this remind me of, in my day-to-day life? And again, it's just kind of the practice of slowing down and noticing a little more and making those connections. And that's something that, anybody can do. You don't need any special skills or anything. And maybe questions will come up. And I always say, okay, questions, and then you try to find the answer to that, and then that might bring up more questions, and then you gotta do some more research, and you really might end up in one of those curiosity vortexes that I think actually really kind of make life worth living.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you in the sense that it is one of those things where if you slow down enough and start asking a couple questions, and here's the thing, I've had this discussion before with other people that our smartphones and our computers, there are great tools, but they can also create an environment or space or time where all of a sudden you've lost an hour on the couch. I am guilty in the sense of I'll go, oh, I need to make something for dinner tonight. I'm going to start scrolling through, find a recipe. And then all of a sudden I'm an hour in because something else came up that distracted me. And all of a sudden I'm nowhere near recipes anymore. Yeah, and it's whatever. But the reality is it is also a great tool. And if we set intention, I'm going to go out for a walk in my neighborhood, the local park, the local green space, whatever it may be. And I'm going to see if I can find 3 different species of birds. And I don't even know how to tell them apart. But if I can write down on my phone, in my notes or whatever, or even Google, gray bird with yellow belly found in San Diego County in January. It might give me 3 different species to look at, but I go, okay, I think it was this one. And the idea being is we can create an opportunity, like you said, to do this on our own. There are plenty of great groups and clubs. And I also like that you stated you started off interested, you thought, in wildlife, took a botany class for the heck of it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And now you're talking about moss like it's the greatest thing on the planet, which it probably is. So what I want listeners to take away from that part of your conversation is the fact that sometimes we don't know what we're excited about until we're exposed to it. So take the risk. Take the opportunity to go and do something completely different. They're like, well, I'm kind of interested in this, but I'll try that. Now, I've got a teenage daughter. I've always told her, like, look, chase down your passions, but also do something you've never done before. Because extracurricular class, or you take the option to take an art class for funsies, and all of a sudden you realize you love painting or you love photography, or in your case, botany. Yeah, I think that's a great example of how we can reconnect to nature. Often I hear people say, well, I'm not a zoologist, I'm not a biologist, I'm not gonna, what can I do? It's like, well, create some curiosity, create some opportunities for you to learn something for yourself. Just like you said, that curiosity vortex, go on a hike, connect with a club or a group, or just do it on your own. So I can't thank you enough for that insight that you've given, not only on your own path, but then what you've seen other people and how you can help other people do this. Getting then to the last part of this conversation, in helping other people, tell me about some of the stuff you launched now in 2026 that you have ongoing that are opportunities for people to learn more, connecting with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of through my journey with, social media influencing for good, nature influencing for good, I've realized that to all of your questions, like a lot of people are just trying to, I don't know, kind of learn. Okay, how can I, if I am interested in these things, how can I learn more, or how can I kind of implement some of these things in my own life, or if I'm out on a hike. So I have started what is I call Nature Nerd Academy,
Nice.
or Nerd 101. And really what it is just teaching people how to be a naturalist. So I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but being a naturalist, not everybody knows what that is, but it's really just someone that, kind of spends time noticing nature. So, kind of the classic example that I think of an early famous naturalist was John Muir.
Mm-hmm.
And really, he actually, the amazing thing is he didn't have a formal background. He didn't have formal training in geology or botany or ecology. What he did is he just spent time out in nature, making observations, kind of seeing things in their natural environment and making those connections. And that is how he learned so much about the environment and became such an advocate for protecting it. And that's kind of an example that we can all take. And so with my Nature Nerd Academy, I'm just teaching kind of simple skills and little steps that people can take to both kind of improve their observation skills, so notice more in nature. I also share information on here about different tools that people can use. You mentioned, phones can really suck you in, but there's tools like iNaturalist, which helps you identify different species. There's tools like Merlin, which
one of my favorites.
Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Which has converted a lot of new birders. I guarantee lots of new nature nerd birders out there because of that. But so I share different tools, different resources, recommendations on how to get involved in local clubs and communities, different book recommendations. So this is something that I have weekly posts on my kind of short form, so Instagram, TikTok, things like that. And then I also do longer form videos that kind of get into some more of the details on YouTube. So just giving people tools and references that they can use so they can be more of a nature nerd in their day-to-day life.
Excellent. I love it. Well, I will put all those links and that information in the episode notes of this episode. So wherever you're listening or watching, you'll be able to go down in those notes and find out how to connect. But please say it out loud as well. What is the handle on Instagram? Where can they find you on YouTube and anywhere else you want to promote?
Yep. So it's Talk Nerdy to Me, California. Actually, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it's all the same handle. Talk Nerdy to Me, California, all one word.
Perfect.
On all the platforms.
Easy. So easy. I love it. I love it. Well, is there anything that you would like to leave with everyone that we have? If there's anything we haven't talked about or mentioned on how to connect or reconnect with nature, why it's important, any of that? I think we covered it all. I mean, we did have a pretty robust conversation, but I want to give you the opportunity just in case.
Yeah, no, I just really want to encourage people to embrace their inner nerd and follow their passion and really just, find something that they get excited about and not be shy about kind of diving into that curiosity vortex, that curiosity rabbit hole. I really just think that once we kind of start making those connections and learn more about the world around us, it just makes life so much more interesting. I always
say, does.
I go, nerds have more fun, and I think that's true. Actually,
I agree, absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, and I look forward to. I mean, maybe near the end of the year we'll circle back and check in and see how things are going with your online courses and everything else, and if you've discovered anything new that you didn't know you loved that now you do.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really hope it encourages people to get out there and nerd out a little more.
Exactly. Nerd out in nature, everybody. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you, dear listener. I appreciate you being here, or should I say listeners. We've had a lot of people checking us out since we've launched, and I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to be able to do this, to share this with you, and to bring you along in this curious odyssey, to explore things and learn new things with all these different guests, all these different dynamics. There's so many more great episodes coming up too, because I've already done a lot of interviews, so I know what's coming, and I'm really glad you're here. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe or follow. However, you can lock this in so you get notifications on your podcast player, or of course you can hit subscribe on YouTube. That'll take care of it as well if you're watching on YouTube. Feel free to leave comments, reviews, stars, whatever, because that helps people who are curious about this, who may not know what it is, check it out and go, oh, well, this person liked it, or this has this many reviews already. I'll check it out too. That'll be fun. So appreciate it if you do that. And of course, goodness, Gabrielle is so amazing. I love her energy. I love her excitement. I love everything she brought to this interview. That's what hooked me to follow her on social media. Her social media handles, again, Talk Nerdy to Me California. Even if you're not in California, her excitement, her curiosity really helps push us to look outside and follow that curiosity and that joy and learning in that capacity. That's one of the reasons I asked her on this show, but also her story, her journey, which teaches us you don't have to blow up your life to go do conservation or work in ecology, any of that. She still has her day job. She still has her family, but she, on her spare time, followed her curiosity, volunteered, learned, and now she's making a difference and making an impact as well. So check out all of her information in the show notes below. You can find me there too, Zoology Rick, on just about every social media platform, or my website, zoologyrick.com. All of it is there for you. If you want to leave a message, reach out to me, comment on YouTube. Oh, and then social media too for this podcast. I always forget about that. Animals, Nature, and You on Instagram. It's the only social media right now. But if you reach out, follow, you can keep up with what's going on there. So with that said, I will say what I always say because, well, I mean it. Have a good one, everybody.